Well, Melissa, it's so great to meet you.
You as
It's
well.
really, really awesome to have this chat with you. You are the founding director and CEO of OpporTUNEity Music.
Yep.
And this is an organization that really stands to bridge some serious gaps in our society and in the way that we see each other's humanity. To you, how does music function as an instrument of connection?
I try to stay away from using the phrase "it's a universal language" because I think that it's so cliche and overused, but I think there's also tremendous truth to it. In my work with children, the thing about giving them the gift of music, of taking them in and teaching them how to learn and express themselves with music, it's a way of giving them a gift that can be a lifeline. For some kids who don't want to pursue music for a living, giving them music is a lifeline. Something to hang on to when times are really hard. For some kids who have a gift and really want to pursue it, it's giving them a gift of sort of like levitating them out of their communities. For OpporTUNEity, music is used as sort of a neutral platform to bring connection, to bring, not just through teaching, but through expression and exploration. It's a tool, it's a resource, but also it's just like this magical, invisible force, right?
Yeah. And at OpporTUNEity, who is using the music and to what end? Because you talk about working with young people and, there's this kind of wonder that you can sense in a young person. It's almost this sort of like inevitable thing. Like they don't apologize around music.
Right.
There's this thing of like, this is mine, this belongs to me, and they can inhabit the expression of music or even the body of an instrument. But OpporTUNEity works with another population as well.
Yeah, we work with inmates, but also we work with undergrads. I mean, it's the beauty of the organization is we work in an educational capacity with multiple different populations. We work with students in higher education, we work with inmates, and we work with youth. Whole spectrum.
We were just chatting a little bit, and you were saying that you want to give, especially you're talking about undergraduates, you want to give them like another way to be.
Yep.
Tell me what that means.
So the interns in OpporTUNEity either work with the K-12 children in the program, the children that either come from Great Brook Valley or inner city schools who are sort of stereotypically typecast, I think, in some ways.
As like not being worthy of this kind of
thing,
or
or students who, might have behavioral issues that they assume that they'll come in with that they don't necessarily. And then those interns also, on the other side, will go into jails and work with inmates. And what they learn with both sides of the population is that what they assume about people isn't always true. What they assume about kids isn't always true. What they assume about inmate population isn't always true. And that at the core of everything that they're doing, there's commonality. There's mutuality that can be discovered after the college student interns break down their very first day inside the jail. They realize that they have the capacity to laugh and jest with the guys who are incarcerated. They have the capacity to create together. And for at least for us going into the jail, we're treated with such a deep level of respect from the guys that are in the class because they know that we're there to help them. And we don't go in with any kind of ego or approach that we're better than them. We go in with sort of, we're all in it together. Let's enjoy the experience. Let's positively influence one another and let's learn from each other. And the interns who are involved with that are changed by that because they come out of the experience realizing, most of them say this is the best thing I've ever done. But they also realize that they can teach and engage with a variety of populations, but also you can still be incarcerated and be a good person.
Yeah.
And the same thing, with children. You can be a child who's immigrated from another country. You can be a student who doesn't speak English fluently. You can be a student who's in a gang. You can be a child who, a whole gamut of and still be a good kid by their definition of what's good. And it's like shifting their framework as future educators, as future therapists, as future musicians, to see the world differently and see people differently. And hopefully, ultimately, be willing to work with these populations in a professional capacity so they don't continue to be left out.
It's almost as if what you're giving the, college students, the ones who are sort of like at the crux of this work, it's like you're giving them a new lens.
Yes, exactly.
To see how they can be in the world, not only as artists, but as human beings, as citizens. And I think that that's actually one of the most powerful and important things that we can do in the world as artists, is give all people a new way of looking at the world around them and looking at their responsibility to that world. And I use that word responsibility as in like the ability to respond.
Right.
Because like so often we see people who are experiencing incarceration or addiction or severe poverty, and we say, well, what could I do about that? That's not, it's not only that that's not my problem, I'm not equipped, I'm not trained. And so often that kind of language is a cop-out.
Right.
It's a way of saying, well, that's a part of the world that's not something I have to deal with.
Right. Or they deserve to be there. And that's a narrative. I think that's a narrative that's even more damaging and limiting.
Right. And so, this actually really aligns with what I hope I'm able to accomplish as the now soon-to-be named Artist in Residence of Music Worcester, because that's kind of what I want to give our audiences here. I want to accomplish the same thing of giving our audiences a new lens, maybe a new way of seeing Worcester, but maybe a new lens of understanding that opportunity music exists in their community, and that there are people in this world and in Worcester who are not just carrying the scourge of a criminal sentence or a felony record or a experience of addiction, but are artists themselves, and are people who deserve to have a seat at the table in terms of creating civic life here in Worcester. And I guess I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the transformations you've seen that happen between people as they make music in a setting of incarceration? Between
the students of a class, they'll come in oftentimes wearing different colored jumpers because they come from different areas, different cell blocks, different community packs, I guess, in the jail. And the uniforms usually represent different crimes or different sentencing structures. And they sit down at the table, not knowing one another. Sometimes they're literal gangs, gang members that are sort of enemies inside the jail. And sometimes they just don't like one another, or sometimes they don't know one another. Sometimes they don't speak the same language. And they sit down at the table, and over the course of 12 weeks, they're required to write together, explore themes, explore hard content. They write about love, they write about addiction, they write about money, they write about family, they write about rejection, childhood, trauma. They realize that they're the same, and then they build a sense of camaraderie, and then they stand up and they deliver this concert together, which is humanly changing, because for some of them it's the first time that they've ever performed music in front of an audience, or performed music in general, but also it's just an achievement. And the other side of that is they're allowed and invited. They invite family. They invite their children, their spouses, their parents, who come in and they've known these individuals as just their family member that's been incarcerated for years, and they get to watch them also accomplish this thing that is pretty remarkable given the context and the circumstances. There's that transformation, and I think the transformation that comes from just achieving in general, and we see that on the kids side of the program too. Their capacity to learn something over 12 weeks and deliver a performance in front of their audience is life-changing. It changes their whole sense of self and their whole sense of capacity, which is limitless. I mean, that's a lifelong gift. And then there's the relationships between the teachers and the interns, and the interns and the gentlemen in the class. The interns transform unquestionably over the course of 12 weeks, and you'll get to talk to the student that we have, Paul, who was a student at Interia for the last 2 years, and now he transferred to UMass and he's still coming on Fridays to be part of the program. He's one of the original interns. He'll talk to you about the profound impact it's had on him and his perspective and his lens.
Yeah.
And what he believes that he's capable of as a professional musician. There's all that. And then the teachers. I mean, we have instructors who are doing the teaching, and their whole lives are changed just as a result of this. They're tremendously accomplished.
Yeah.
But this is a whole other level of seeing the world.
Yeah. Well, Melissa, I'm so excited to work with you.
It's going to be great.
And I'm really, really excited as well to welcome a new community of attendees to the concerts that I'll curate and perform as part of my residency. And I really look forward to creating ways for the participants of OpporTUNEity to not only be in the audience, but be on the stage with us, and to have their artistry and the lens through which they see their role as artists in the world woven in to music that gets presented at places like Mechanics Hall or on the stages at campuses like Holy Cross. For me, I think that the lens of music that is created with community is actually really linked to the origin stories of so much of the music that we love, and that gets presented in spaces like this without the awareness that a lot of these composers were writing for relationships through the lens of transformation as well. So I'm so looking forward
Me too.
to creating these gifts with you.
Thank you.
It's a treat to talk to you.
You as well.